want to talk about a valuable lesson that many people have to learn. You know, we always, and I mean just people in general when I say we, I don't necessarily mean myself, even though I've had to learn that lesson too. We like to look at how our life and how we were able to do things in our life. And we like to suggest that somebody else is able to do it too, right? For instance, I'm just going to use a very common thing that people, no matter what they look like, what color they are, like to say. And they like to tell everybody and anybody to have their own business. If everybody had their own business, nobody would be working. So we wouldn't be able to enjoy those nice restaurants that we go to, you know, if you still go to restaurants every once in a while. We wouldn't be able to enjoy, if you still go to hotels and spas and get massages or whatever you like to get, you wouldn't be able to enjoy those kind of things if everybody was to just follow the advice that everybody should have a business. There would be no employees. And I mean, what stores would really be open? Everybody's owning their own business. Okay. Talk about self-sufficiency. Won't be no employees, won't be no stores. You talking about some self-sufficiency. You'll be doing everything on your own. You'll be learning how to do that then. But that's not really the biggest reason why I said that, though. That's like a simple reason why I said it. But another reason why I said it, because you don't know where somebody is intellectually. You don't know where they are spiritually. So, and it's the same thing with me, because when I hear somebody do something where they could do stuff so effortlessly, that doesn't mean that I can do it. People have a habit of thinking that just because they can do something, that anybody in the world can do exactly what they did. They don't understand that people are really different. They don't understand that. They don't understand that people are born different. They don't even understand that there could be some serious spiritual implications why that person can't do what another person is doing. Now, I've been through that quite a bit. I've had some serious, I would say, spiritual implications why certain things were delayed because of certain things that happen. And it's not like anything that happens to a regular person, but then what do we know that happens to other people? What do we know that really happens to them too? Because everything is really spiritual, nothing is physical. We think things are physical because most of us identify only with the five senses. And so you say, everything's happening in the spiritual because there's no physical. Everything happens in the spiritual. Okay, the physical is a perception of reality. It's not a real material world. It's a perception of reality. Because everything is spiritual. Everything's perception. Just about, everything's spiritual though. And so, but the thing is, people are at a different place spiritually. People are at a different place intellectually. People are at a different place. And then people have a different support system. Some people have more spirits, like support in the spiritual world on their side than others do. Some people don't have hardly any support. And some people, they have ancestors or spirits or whatever that's a little bit stronger than some of the others. I don't really get into that kind of stuff too much because really, what's for me, for the ancestor part, I feel like your ancestors are going to be as strong as you are. Even if you're so-called corrupt or crooked, your ancestors will still be as strong as you are. Okay, like if you like a corrupt person, like say, let's just use an example of somebody who might be corrupt. I'm going to use Vladimir Putin or something like that. Or, maybe somebody that's a brown person, a brown male that's like real corrupt, but you can tell they're powerful. They still may have some powerful spirits, powerful ancestors on their side because of the position they're in and the authority that they walk in. And that still draws those kind of spirits to them. They still draws those kind of, So it's still a difference, but what I notice about what we want to call ancestors, sometimes you access ancestors in higher realms that have a little bit more power when you actually elevate yourself. So that lets me know that you are the ancestors. That's basically what that let me know. Okay, you are the ancestors. Okay, but like I said, everybody is in a different position. So I learned not to do that, to just suggest that because I can do something, or even like somebody else who they might have issues, but spiritual or intellectually, anything like that, or even physically, is not a problem for them. And so they can probably do things that other folks can't, or maybe they have the wherewithal. Like everybody don't need to have their own business. Everybody have not mastered keeping up with their own taxes and paperwork. Some people that have a hard time keeping up with the doggone regular taxes that you just get from working a job. And so imagine them having a business and having to file all this extra paperwork. That's gonna be more for them, and maybe they don't have the wherewithal to keep up with that. So you got to be careful suggesting that everybody just do this one thing. But that's just an example that everybody likes to bring up is having your own business. And then you have some people be like that'll say that, and it's true that things can happen in people's lives because of, and I've said this before, because of the inner world, it's because of the vibration and all that stuff. But then at the same time, see, I've learned hard lessons in my life, and with that, you have to look at that too. For instance, I brought up an example of a lady who's Hispanic, right? From childhood, and I can actually hold on a second. Okay, I can actually see where she's coming from. I can see where she's coming from. From childhood, she came up with in a family and relatives, mothers and aunts, who were probably into the craft. And you know what I mean by the craft? They were probably into Santeria or something else. They could have been into something else. But with that culture, it's a lot of Santeria. And so she probably had a lot of dark work. When I say dark, I mean dark is in something that's done to harm her, because dark is not always bad, but in her case, it is bad. And she probably came up having a lot of dark work done against her, right, ever since she was a little girl, and probably could never maintain positive relationships. Every time somebody come into our life and she think it's something that's going to work out, or she thinks it's positive, it ends up turning sour. And that could be something on it. That lady, and this is something I identify with too, she could have been in a spiritual marriage. A lot of times when stuff happens to these young ladies, they have families that's in that life, that's in that type of life, in that type of religion, involving like Santeria or other stuff like I had to say voodoo, stuff like that, and they really practicing it in a negative way. See, everybody don't really practice voodoo in a negative way. A lot of them actually respect the art. Okay, a lot of them actually respect the art. But some people practice it in a very, very negative way to harm people just because they understand how to do it. And they don't care who they hurt. So that's what I mean, practicing in a very, very negative, a dark way. A dark way, okay? Meaning it's the person's intentions, not the actual practice itself. It's the person's intentions. And see, somebody could have been, actually she told this to somebody else, been doing things against her, family members doing things against her. She could have had a spiritual marriage. That's a lot for a lot of women, and maybe men too, but a lot of women. They don't know that something could have happened to them, and that thing that happened to them caused them to not have meaningful relationships, and it seems like they couldn't form spiritual relationships. They seem like they can't get married. Every time they're interested in somebody, it don't seem to work out. It just seems like they can never be happy. And a lot of times people like that might be, this is something that I'm aware of. Now, I don't know all of the reasons for that, but this is a reason that I am very much aware of. And it's because they might be in a spiritual marriage with an entity. They might be in a spiritual marriage with an entity and don't know it. So my point in saying that is, this is the biggest thing for me. This is what I know well. Is that my point in saying that is, we can't really decide what somebody else should be able to do just because we can do it. So if you can write all this stuff on a piece of paper, like people talking about write your vision boards and all that stuff, just because they can write something on a piece of paper and it come to pass, and you tell, you got to write stuff down, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this. And if a person not able to manifest what this other person manifested, it's like, well, you're not doing this right, and you're not doing this right. And like, we don't realize that it's a lot more to it than writing something on a piece of paper. It's a lot more to it than writing something on a piece of paper, and that's something I actually know from personal experience. I know that very well. I know it very well. It's more than writing something on a piece of paper. It's more than thinking about it. It's more than your thoughts, because this other entity is trying to create thoughts for you too. So you got to get a divorce from this entity. Whatever contract that your family made for you, you have to get out the contract that your family made for you. You have to get out of the contract that your family. A lot of times the people Hispanic, especially brown American, black American, especially black American, people that's involved in this voodoo, Santeria, and other religions like that, and maybe in other cultures too, but I don't know anything about it to really keep, especially what you call like the Middle Eastern and stuff like that. Yeah. What it is that there's a lot of contracts that maybe a lot of these parents made for their children to sell their children off to like what you would call the devil. So they sold the children's soul off to the devil when they were like maybe 3 or 5 years old. They sold their children's soul to the devil. They sold their children to the devil. And so sometimes these people have a hard time manifesting the life they want, and all this different stuff going on. They have a hard time getting the dream job they want. They have a hard time getting the kind of money they want. They can't get their husband they want. They can't get the wife they want. They can't get a good friend that's going to be loyal to them like they loyal to other people. And it seems like the minute you feel like you got a good friend that's going to treat you like you treat them, it seems like something happened where they don't talk to you no more or something. See, that's somebody that feel like they own you. That's spiritual. That is something happening in what people like to call the metaphysical, right? Something's going on in the metaphysical where some entity somewhere, somebody feels like they own you and they don't allow you to have freedom. They're literally controlling your life and they're controlling your reality. Okay? That I know 100%. I don't even have to think about it. That I know. Okay? But anyway, I just feel like talking about that. I don't really have anything else to say beyond that. And with that being said, I will talk later.